property taxes. So I would definitely highlight the fact that it's an ongoing cost, right? It's not a one-time, unfortunately. Okay, property tax. What is it made up of? Two major subdivisions. There's education tax and there's the municipal tax. Education, you can only guess what that goes towards. That goes towards everything that has to do with education, including the busing. Busing, teachers, maintenance, all of that, buildings. Municipal taxes, that has to do with road maintenance, right? Road maintenance. And what goes with road maintenance? Well, now it's pothole season, right? So patching those. What else are they doing in the spring? What are they doing right now? Cleaning, right? They're sweeping the sidewalks and all that. So all of that is paid. The parks, when soon folks are going to start mowing the lawn, that's all paid by these municipal taxes. So and then snow clearing in the winter, right? That's a huge expense. That's probably one of the biggest items in our budget is snow clearing. All those loaders driving around all over the city, that is also municipal tax. So I pay $3,700 a year, more or less, on property taxes. So that's like $300 a month property taxes. Everybody, every single person owning a piece of property, even if it's a condominium, you pay property taxes. And it varies, right? It depends on the value of your home primarily, okay? Property taxes are calculated based on 45%, okay? So that's the good news. So they take 45% of your property, and that's what you get taxed on. The value that remains is referred to as the portioned assessment. Portioned assessment. Sorry, we ran out of room there, at least I did. A portioned assessment. So think of it, it's a portion, right? So how do you calculate the portioned assessment? You just take the entire value and you multiply it by 0.45. That's what you do. So this formula, I would like you to have that on your study sheet. Okay. Portioned assessment. And I'm fairly confident when I say this part right here. Only use if question mentions 45%. So the province kind of, they will say, hey, this is the value of the home, but we're taxed 45% of that entire value. That's when you want to use this formula. I would have this little note right next to it. Okay? Highlight, highlight. So we're going to basically dive into the calculating here. What makes up your property taxes, your education, and your municipal taxes. But there's a third component, which is the local improvement taxes. So whenever they redo sidewalks, you've probably remember when they redid Mountain, was it 2 years ago? Mountain Avenue, like they dug up the whole thing like this deep and they just tore everything out and redid the whole road. That is actually local improvement, okay? Sidewalks, if they redo a sidewalk, if they redo a park. Remember the park, they just did this last year, fall? And now it's a mess, right, with all the mud there that you were dragging in. That is a local improvement. Like the people in this area are going to have to pay for that. It's not free. Somebody's paying for it, right? So, and the local improvement tax, okay, everything else is based on the value of your home, but highlight this part. When it comes to local improvement, it is based on your frontage, like the width of your property, how wide it is. Okay, so the width of the front of your property. So local improvement tax, you can highlight this here. it's just the frontage in feet. It's always in feet. And the cost of improvement, right? So this I will give you, the question will give you this, or we'll use a chart for that. If you're interested in actually finding out exactly how the city taxes, we're going to do this later, not now. I need you to calculate the property taxes, and then we'll do this either tomorrow or later today. Go over to 61. This is a very boring, it's black and white right here, but it's technically red and blue. Okay? 61, real quick. This is what an actual property tax bill looks like, and I get it once a year. Okay? So look at this. This is where the red and the blue meet right here. And so you've got school taxes up here, and you will be told how much your school taxes are right there. And then the bottom part has your municipal taxes, and there's a bunch of extra. Look at the local improvements right here, if you don't mind highlighting this. Local improvements, so water main repairs, wastewater, sewer, ornamental street lighting. So when during Christmas time, when they put the Christmas lights up, somebody's paying for it. That's ornamental street lights, okay? Drainage, sewer, like if they redo the drainage and the sewer system, they did concrete pavement. So all of these are local improvements right here. So local improvements get bunched up with municipal taxes, okay? So you've got your school tax here, and you've got your municipal taxes here. So school goes for schools, obviously, and municipal is everything else, like the maintenance of the city, basically. Okay? And here's something that you need to know. I don't think they ask very often, but you are required to know that taxes are due on September 30th of each year. So grab a highlighter and make sure that makes it onto your study sheet. So basically, taxes always start in October, like October, November, and so forth. That's when you start the new year, quote unquote. Okay? Here is the big formula that is going to take up a significant amount of space, probably, but you need to have this. So on 62, this is the meat and potatoes of today's lesson. If you don't like meat and potatoes, sorry. Fill in the blank, whatever you really like to eat. And so one thing you need to be comfortable with when it comes to property taxes is something called the mill rate. Okay? And the mill rate is basically a dollar amount for every $1,000. That's what that is. So I will say, if your mill rate, this is just an example. They get weird, the mill rates, okay? If the mill rate is 14.427, if that's what you see on the question, you should immediately think of rewriting that as to 14.427 over 1,000. Okay, that's going to be your first go-to. It's as if I said the percentage you got on the test is 40%. You would immediately think, oh, 40 over 100, right? So mill rate is over 1,000. So you're going to see a lot of that. That's how they determine how much you're going to have to pay, folks. And it's the school board decides how much money they need to raise, and then they decide what the mill rate is going to be. So highlight this whole box right here. You can make this a lot smaller, I know that. Like I've seen students fit it into a business card kind of space. Like make it a lot smaller than this. But you basically take your portion assessment, you multiply it by the education mill rate divided by 100, and that gives you your education taxes. Some students find it easier to have this in a bracket like this, so you go for it. You just put brackets in. So you would do for education taxes, let's say, you take the portion assessment, which is 45% of the entire value of the home. You multiply it by the mill rate divided by 1,000. Okay? For municipal taxes, you still do the same. Municipal mill rate divided by 1,000. And then if there are any local improvements, you go frontage. This will be in feet. You can write this down. This will be in feet, always. And then times improvement rate equals local improvement. And guess what we do at the end of the day? I'll call this A, this part B, and this part C. There are usually three main components of your property taxes. So at the end of the day, if they ask you for the total property taxes, you take A and you add B, which is our municipal taxes, and the local improvements. And this is the big one here, minus any credit. Do you hear me say minus? Okay, because you know what the main issue is? That students add the credit. They're like, oh, a credit. A credit is when the city finds out that they didn't end up using all the money that they need, because it's always based on a budget. So let's say it's a year where it didn't snow a lot. If there's leftover, they give you some money back. So that's what the credit is. Okay, so if there's a credit, it's based on last year's budget, and if you underspent, then they give it back to you. Listen carefully to this part. Some students think because this is always, like there's always a mill rate, that it's always going to be exactly this way. Not necessarily. It may be that they just flat out give you what the municipal taxes are. They might say, hey, the municipal taxes are $2,000. But that maybe that for the education piece, you still have to do this step right here, finding out what it actually is. So don't be thinking that you have to follow this every single time, okay? This is kind of like the skeleton, and so we're gonna build off of that. It's a template, and we're gonna calculate property taxes based on that. Go to bottom of 62 here. This is important. Sometimes you'll be given the actual tax amount, no mill rate necessary. Common errors: forgetting to calculate the portion value, forgetting to divide the mill rate by 1,000. This is a really common one here. Multiplying the improvement rate by the portion value. So maybe right now these errors don't mean much to you, so we'll just dive right into the example, shall we? Let's do this. 63. I think it's like 44 days or something left. 44 classes. Maybe less. I should redo the math here. 63. The Adebio family owns a home with a portioned assessed value of $138,000. What does that mean, folks? I need you to understand that part right there. Is that the entire value of the home? That is already 45% of the home. Noah, you're with me, right? So basically, think of a pie chart. This is your home, okay? And they're giving you 45 is just a little bit less than half, right? So they're saying that this is 45%, and that's what you want, okay? That's exactly what you want. So no need to use that formula where you find 45% of the value of the home. Okay, guys? You're with me? You seem very excited. You're too excited. Don't be too excited about this. So let's do the math here. The municipal, grab some highlighters, different colors. Different colors. The municipal mill rate is 11.415 mils. So that's the municipal. And then grab another color. There's the education mill rate is a different number. What do we know about mill rates? is just divide that thing by 1,000, okay? And mils is kind of like, instead of percent, mils is the unit, which tells you you have to divide it by 1,000. The property has a frontage of 60 feet, so it's 60 feet wide. Most houses have 50 to 60 feet of width, some are less. There are 40 or 30-foot properties. The families charge local improvement taxes for road oiling and lane lighting. What's going on there? And then the family gets a tax credit of $750. You always do the credit at the very end, please. Don't do it right away. So here we go. Let's calculate this. It wants education taxes first. So which mill rate are we going to use for that one? They don't give me what it is, by the way. They just give me the mill rate. So we go like this. 138,250 times the mill rate, which is 15.462, over 1,000. You calculate that. So it's 138. Sorry, let's do the bracket first. 15.462 divided by 1,000. Do not round. Just go times 138,250. So there it is. For education only, this year, this particular property is going to have to pay that much money for the year, okay, based on the value of the home and the mill rate and also all that. Okay, let's keep going. So that's it for education. B, calculate the municipal taxes due. And I'm going to add something here for you now. Including improvements. Okay, we're going to include the improvements under our municipal taxes. Question, stay with me. Do they flat out give me what the municipal taxes are this year? Do they give me a dollar amount for it? They don't. But they give me a mill rate, correct? So I have to use the mill rate. I have to repeat this process right here. So I'm going to take my portioned assessment and I'm going to go 11.450. This is just the municipal tax right there. You go 11.415 divided by 1,000. You multiply that by 138,250. And it's less, and it makes sense because the mill rate is smaller, 1578.12. So technically this could be it. It could be just education, municipal, we're done. But there are improvements, so I'll do that here. Improvements. What improvements are there in particular? They have road oiling, just in case it's a squeaky road. I don't know what that is. Lane light, but it is actually from the city of Winnipeg. And I'll tell you later on what I think it is. Lane lighting. What are we going to use for that? Portioned assessment? Nope, there's no mill rate. We're going to use the frontage. How wide is this property? 60 feet. So you go 60 feet, and we're going to multiply it by some sort of rate. Same with lane lighting. We're going to go 60 feet, and we're going to multiply it by something. This is where your yellow table comes in. I'll tell you that most of the time on a test or AC, I will give you the number. But this is straight from the city of Winnipeg. I'm not making this up, okay? This is from the city of Winnipeg. Go find local improvement costs for property tax credits. And you go find lane lighting. You see it? Lane lighting is right there. That's 180. So I'll put a little dot there. And I have road oiling. So there's, you gotta be careful. There's lane oiling, and then there's further down road oiling. So you gotta make sure you pick the right one. So those two are the ones we're gonna take with us. It is cost per frontage, right? Foot per year. So we go road oiling, I had $8 per foot. And this other one, lane lighting, was $1.80. And now we just multiply them, and that's the way to go. 60 times 8. So it's $480 for road oiling. And then 60 times 1.8. That's $108 for that. So now we do our subtotal, like, so this is all gonna be lumped into municipal. This is under the municipal umbrella, okay? So we add that up, and we get 216612. Okay, so this is the number that ultimately answers the question, what are the municipal taxes here? It could have been that I just flat out gave you what road oiling is, 480, 108, right? So then that's it. Like, don't go ahead and do this. If there's no frontage, if you don't know what the width is of your property, you can't even do it, right? So education, municipal, and now we're gonna figure out the total, the net property taxes. Calculate the net property taxes for the family. So we go like this. We go education tax plus municipal tax minus credit. And keep in mind that the municipal tax has the improvements in it, right? So we go 2137.62 plus 2166.12. If there are no credits, folks, then it's just, don't worry about it. Okay, if they don't mention a credit, that means that there is no discount. So you go minus, in this case it's 750. Okay, that's this one. I highlighted it with pink earlier. So I'm going to use the same one. And if you do this, you get a grand total of $3,553.74. And I would encourage you to enroll in they call it the TIP program, TIPP. So they break this down into a monthly amount, and then you just pay the same every month. You don't have to worry about this giant bill coming in September. Okay, actually, you get it in June, July, but you have to pay it by the end of September, which for a lot of us, that'd be a lot of money to put away. Okay, before you do anything else, go to 64. It's not as guided as this one. Sometimes the province guides you, sometimes they don't guide you. Just want to know the total right here. So I want you to go to 64 before you do anything else, and then I want to see how you're doing with that one. Okay. 64. Actually, let me see here. 65. I'll get 64 started with you otherwise, because if you make a mistake at the beginning, it just causes the whole thing to be wrong, okay? So here we go. 64. Portion assessed value needs to be calculated. So this is, I'm giving it away already here with that title. The Lorenzo family owns a home in Selkirk. The property is assessed at a land value. This is, I'm just preparing you for this. I've never seen this on the exam, but the land value is 121 and the home is assessed to be worth 245. So obviously you need to add those up to get the total value of the home. And here it is. Here's that other, the part that I told you about. The residence is taxed 45% of the assessed market value. So you need to figure out the portion assessment before you do any other calculation. So let's figure that out. Portioned assessment is 121 plus 245. So we're going to add that up, both of these combined, and we're going to multiply that by 0.45. That ends up being 366,000 times 0.45. So here it is. This is a very important number. That's the number you want to, from now on, be using when you're given a mill rate, okay? Don't be using the 366,000 because that's the entire value of the home, okay? You just want the 164. So now I'm going to leave it to you and see if you can figure out the total property tax for this particular family, okay? Make sure you give it a try. I will give you the final answer because there's a lot of moving parts here. You're supposed to get, if everything is said and done, don't look up if you don't want to know yet, okay? But I'm leaving it there in brackets. I just want to mention, like, this Thursday we have our quiz, right? So property tax is definitely going to be on there. Your homework should definitely be having this part right here on your study sheet. And the portion assessment, like this top part here, where you take the value of the home times 0.45, only if portion assessed value is not provided. I will add something to this. Only if 45% is mentioned. That is very safe to say. If the question does not say only 45% of the entire value is taxed, that usually means that you already have the portioned assessment. Okay, so that is, this first line is a big if, only if necessary, okay? I would say almost every part here is only if necessary. And one more thing that I want to mention, okay? There has been a year, I can't remember which year, where they gave us 3 mill rates. And students were like freaking out, panicking, like, what? You only ever showed us 2 mill rates. What they did is they broke, some little towns have like 2 education taxes. So they break the education mill rates, they give you 2 mill rates. I will just say this, if they even gave you 5 mill rates, you would just have to do this 5 times, right? Like you take the portion assessment times that mill rate. Portion assessment times the other mill rate, right? So you just keep on multiplying by the mill rate, divide it by 1,000, and just come up with that dollar amount, right? So you always have to expect the unexpected. I don't think they will. But you got to be ready for that. I asked you to do 67 as well. I would strongly suggest 67 is where the education taxes, for instance, is already just calculated. Like they already give you that, so no mill rate for it. You just add it at the end. You just add it to everything else that you're calculating. So things like that. Okay. If you're doing 68 to 69, the answers are at the bottom. Okay.